Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ansello? Here. Mr. Antelli? Here. Mr. Baroff? Here. Mr. Colby? Here. Mr. Haney? Here. Chairman Holland?
Here.
Mr. Wilcox?
Before we get started, I'd just like to make sure all the legislators are aware that there's an open house at the Frank E. Van Laer Wastewater Treatment Plant Saturday, September 29th in the morning. So a lunch is provided, so you get to eat a little bit, and just contact your staff if you'd like to go. Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
Yes, we have several speakers this evening. Please use the center aisle and come forward when your name is called. Each speaker will have 2 minutes in which to address the committee, and please conclude when the timer sounds. Thank you for your cooperation. The first speaker is Judith Cardasano.
Hi, my name is Judith Cardasano. I'm here because I'm alarmed by fracking, and I'm really alarmed by a suggestion recently made by a county official that Monroe County might consider accepting fracking wastes. First, we don't have a facility capable of processing fracking wastes. The wastes are heavily contaminated with toxic chemicals and radioactive materials. Our facilities rely on microbes to break down wastes, and fracking fluids would destroy the microbes. Second, even if we could process the waste, where would we put them? Would we put them in Lake Ontario after spending how much money to clean up Lake Ontario? Would we put them in the Genesee River? Would we put them under the ground so we can experience earthquakes like the ones in Ohio? Third, how would the fracking waste get here? Most likely in fracking waste trucks that can weigh up to 80,000 pounds apiece. New York's roads and bridges are crumbling. We have no money to make repairs now. So how will we pay for the additional damage to our roads and bridges caused by fracking trucks? DOT estimates that it would cost $90 to $156 million for state roads and $121 to $222 million for local roads per year to do the repairs. Can the county pay for the damage even though the state can't? Should taxpayers be footing the bill for private industry's use of our infrastructure? Each heavy truck can cause as much pavement structural damage as 9,000 cars. Increased truck traffic can also lead to more accidents, pollution, and noise. To accommodate this increase in traffic, we would need to construct many new roads and bridges and somehow try to undertake new safety measures and operational improvements, all with our non-existent money. Accepting fracking wastes and fracking trucks, these are not good ideas. We can do much better than that. I trust you will reject this and approve a ban on fracking and all of its ancillary activities in Monroe County. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is John Keevert.
I'm John Keevert, a resident of Brighton. I ask you to put in place a moratorium on hydraulic fracturing gas drilling and on disposal of fracking waste in Monroe County. I want to remind you of an Environmental Protection Agency report on contamination near the town of Pavilion, Wyoming. The EPA report said, quote, the presence of synthetic compounds such as glycol ethers and the assortment of other organic components is explained as a result of direct mixing of hydraulic fracturing fluids with groundwater in the Pavilion gas field, unquote. This is clear proof that water is being contaminated by fracking fluids. The reference is in my handout. While the gas industry claims that fracking can be done safely, history and science say otherwise. Even if it might be possible in the future to do it with low contamination, there should be strict regulations in place requiring best known procedures before drilling is authorized. The draft guidelines coming out of the DEC are vague and without enforcement mechanisms. Another area of concern is the known greatly increased use of roads and public services in areas with significant fracking. Each well requires millions of gallons of water brought in by heavy trucks clogging the roads 24 hours a day. Secondary roads quickly deteriorate. With a large influx of out-of-state workers, social services, emergency services, and governmental services have been overwhelmed in other states. Income from gas and oil is not reflected in property taxes that fund these services, and income taxes from new workers will not help local governments. Yes, licensing and fees could recover funding, but these provisions are not in place and may require state-level approval. We should not let fracking occur in New York until we are sure that the regulations are in place to ensure safety as well as pay for increased county expenses. Protect Monroe County by enacting a moratorium now. It can be rescinded when and if these concerns are ever addressed. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Marilyn Catherine.
My name is Marilyn Catherine. I live in the city on the 19th Ward. I'm sorry I didn't hear what was said before, but I just would like to make sure that certain questions are posed because I know you are all eager to carry out your duties to protect this county, our resources, both human and environmental and economic. So I have a few papers to leave on that, but the questions before you, I think, concern particularly the traffic issues. What will the impacts be? Have you looked at this enough? Have you figured out what the impact on infrastructure would be, on traffic regulation would be, and enforcement of any legislation that is, rules that are already in place? How would hazardous materials and accidents that might involve hazardous materials be taken care of? And what would be the impact on community life and the environment of heavy traffic that's involved in the ancillary activities in hydrofracking? So I think I ask you and implore you to make sure that you've looked at all those issues, and most of all, to give yourself enough time to examine all of those issues that are part of the hydrofracking industry. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Dwayne Wilder.
Is there anyone present who's not signed up to speak who would like to address the committee at this time? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the August 22nd, 2012 minutes of the Environment and Public Works Committee before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business.
Referral 12-271, author.
Moved by Legislator Ansello, seconded by Legislator Colby. I understand that everyone's received a memo regarding this referral. At this time, I'll recognize Legislator Colby for the motion to amend. Legislator Colby?
Thank you, Chairman Howland. I would like to offer the following amendment that was provided by Mr. Halford in his correspondence. Be it moved that referral 12-0271, Pacific legislation actions, be amended as follows. The specific legislation action required is to authorize the county executive or her designee to execute and amend, therefore, with CDM/CHA Joint Ventures Powers Building, 16 West Main Street, West Suite 830, Rochester, New York, in an amount of $160,901 for the professional service engineering for the Pure Waters Master Plans update.
Do we have a second? Legislator Antelli seconds the motion. Do we have any discussion? I'm sorry, Legislator Haney?
Mr. Chairman, through you, I assume what this is about is that this is being funded with cash capital rather than borrowing?
Chairman, it would be funded out of the operating budget, and I think the accounts that it's actually funded out of are mentioned in the referral, I think 2 paragraphs after the specific legislative action. Unfortunately, the specific legislative action was not consistent with that, but we do mention in the referral that it would be out of those 4 accounts that are related to, in the operating budget, that are related to each of the Pure Waters districts. So it would be from the operating budget rather than borrowing.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, is the cost of this somehow being apportioned between the 4 districts, or is it one district in particular? Or?
It would be apportioned through each of the 4 districts.
Sufficient appropriations for this?
Through Mr. Chairman, yes, they do.
Do we have any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Referral passes.
No, the amendment.
I'm sorry, the amendment passes. Okay, now to vote on the referral. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The referral passes.
Referral 12-273, approval.
Moved by Legislator Colby. Seconded by Legislator Antelli. Is there any discussion? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, has the administration determined if any of these property owners owe any taxes?
Through the chair, Scott Adair, Director of Finance. The parcels listed as part of this referral, there are no back taxes owed on those particular properties.
Thank you.
Do we have any further discussion? Legislator Haney.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, how does this specifically work? Not only the cost of the line into the properties, but do I understand that the cost of the extension of the main conduits or whatever the homes will be connected to will all be somehow assessed against these properties?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, there are 11 parcels in this location. There are no proposed new sewers being constructed. What drove this request was from the town of Chilai, who are building a new Department of Public Works facility on Beaver Road. In and around the parcel they're developing, we had homes as well as light industrial, and apartment complexes that were being serviced through a variety of agreements, out-of-district agreements. What this does is clean up those parcels that have been served by these out-of-district agreements and simply extending the boundaries of the GCO district. This was done probably last time 10 years ago for another subdivision development. So we felt it was an appropriate time based on the request from the town to extend the district to incorporate the other districts that were being serviced by other arrangements.
So there's no new sewer mains that are going to be laid as a result of this?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Are some of these properties already on the Gates Chilai sewer system?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, they all are.
But they never technically were included within the boundaries? Is that what the problem is?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that is correct. There are some vacant parcels.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? The referral passes.
Referral 12-275, amend the 2012 to 2017 capital.
Moved by legislator Ansello, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion? Legislator Ansello.
Yes, what caused the project to increase by $1 million?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Mike Giardino, Director of Aviation. The increase in scope has primarily to do with the fact that there are two causes. Number one, the demolition of 2 buildings that are currently on the footprint that are in unusable condition, and that increased the scope. The second reason is the apron had been used or had been constructed for general aviation use, and over the course of time is now being used for not only general aviation use, but the parking of fueling trucks by the FBO, and also a larger, heavier corporate jet population. And those are the 2 primary reasons for the increase in costs.
Thank you. Do we have any further discussion? Legislator Broth.
Through the chair to the administration, that's actually was going to be a question I was going to ask, and I understand the answer, but it leads me to another question, which is in the original CIP, we are actually scheduled, according to the CIP, to go out to an increase of $2 million rather than $1,200,000. So it sounds like this is a savings, except that means if it was already in the CIP, it had to be an unexpected increase. And so I'm confused. Is the increase because of this, it was an unexpected occurrence that we had to make up for these failing taxiways, or in fact, was this already planned for? It's in fact less expensive than we anticipated. I'm confused. It's one of the 2.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's really not an increase to the CIP. It is more moving the project forward from 2013 to 2012 for the reasons that I've discussed with the committees and with the legislature in the past about being ready next year for events such as the PGA and an air show. So it's more that we've accelerated the program.
Thank you. And then through the chair of the administration, then am I correct to assume that in the 2013 appropriation will in fact reflect approximately $1 million less because it had already been spent in 2012, correct?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any further discussion? I'm sorry, you're not allowed to speak. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The referral passes. That being the end of our referrals, is there any unfinished business to come before this committee? There being none, no unfinished business, the September 26, 2012 meeting at the Environment and Public Works Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting will be October 24th, 2012 at 5 p.m.